Adam, I wanted to talk to you. Power and Politics used to be one of my favorite shows back when Winnipegger and former CBC host Don Newman had the show.
Man, you're old.
I'm old. Thank you for pointing it out once a show. But recently, with your favorite host, David Cochrane, they have discussed Pierre Poilievre and his criticisms of the Prime Minister, as if the leader of the opposition isn't supposed to criticize the Prime Minister and government in power, like that is their job.
But he's just being so negative.
That is his job.
Oh, okay.
But they've recently had a new expert on the show.
Oh.
And I just want to point out, I'm going to let you guys see what she has to say. And Adam, I want you to give you some of your straight up opinions on this.
When you pull back and look at global economic trends and where
Carney
trade
is losing,
because
losing,
of the disruption of the U.S., you can see China winning.
Who is this lady?
You can see Russia winning.
Don't worry,
with the latest
ticker banner on the
oil
bottom
spikes
will
caused by the
put her
closure
up.
of the Strait of Hormuz. But Europe,
She
the
is
Gulf
a
states,
former
Asia right now with all
advisor
of
to the Prime Minister
is
Trudeau.
doing better if they're heavily
too
reliant
bad.
on the United States, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And look, I'd agree with a lot of what both Nathan and Emily just said, because, when I saw the announcement today, I looked at the names and thought, wow, that's nice. What a wonderful bunch of successful Canadians from various backgrounds that are all stepping up to volunteer their time for this collective effort of securing a good trade deal with the Americans. And I naively thought it would be hard for Poilievre to sort of get up there and complain about it. But it's sort of this kind of over-the-top negative rhetoric towards the Prime Minister and the government, while simultaneously then implicitly letting off the Trump administration and the Americans, off the hook by putting all the blame and all the onus on the Canadian side. That is so off-putting to Canadians right now, to Emily's point that we're consistently seeing reflected in the polling for the last year or so. Like him saying the Prime Minister hasn't held negotiations in 5 months is the kind of framing I would honestly expect from a Trump White House official on Fox News, because the reality of why we hadn't had these negotiations in the last little bit is because the president took his ball and went home because he didn't like that Premier Ford took out an ad that accurately reflected Ronald Reagan's views on tariffs and free trade.
Completely wrong information right there.
I fully get that the leader of the opposition has to be out there opposing, but
do you get that?
There's a way to do it without coming across like you're being petulant, or that you're trying to run cover for the Trump administration. So,
I wouldn't want to be running cover for anyone.
Keeps this strategy and keeps employing this kind of rhetoric, and the folks around him can't see why a normal person who doesn't spend their entire day online in a conservative echo chamber would find the constant hyperbolic
as opposed to the liberal echo chamber as the CBC
pack it in now and get ready for the next decade of the Carney government.
Gary, what do you make
of
the
right,
elements?
that's enough of that video. Thank you. I just wanted to get some of your quick thoughts, Adam.
Where do you even start with all of that? I don't even know where to start complaining about it.
Talking points, liberal bias, basically she's following a script. I mean, she has personal bias as she is the former advisor to the liberal Prime Minister Trudeau. I mean, yeah, this is an expert trying to giving you their opinion on Pierre Poilievre and his criticisms. But yeah, you're right. Like, which point? I'll point out one thing that I said was factually wrong, and that was the Ronald Reagan ad that Doug Carney, Mark Ford, the premier of Ontario, put out. He took a old clip from the 80s of a former president talking about trade deals and the unfairness of some trade deals, but completely misrepresented how Japan and the U.S. were acting at that time and the opinions that Ronald Reagan had. Took that completely out of context and then applied it to the Trump administration and the way they were acting in this trade dispute that we're having right now. And I mean, it's been verifiably talked about many times. So she doesn't even admit to the truth in that one point there. I mean, talking points or script, Adam. What do you think?
It's the same crap that you see on CBC every time you turn it on. Like, it's just constant. And it's funny that she brings up running cover. I mean, what does CBC do all day, every day? Runs cover for our current Liberal government.
Yeah, they get a woman who's right out of government or advising the government to go on the news channel and basically try to frame the opposition party in a negative light. I mean, this isn't really journalism.
No, she's just trying to tell people how to think.
Yeah.
There's no like encouragement here to consider some facts and think, come to your own conclusion. She's just going, well, he's saying negative things about the government and people don't like that because I say that they shouldn't like it. And they're negative because I said they're negative. I'm like, she gets that, the opposition has to oppose, except she doesn't like any sort of opposing that they're doing. Like, could you just contradict yourself a little more, please? What are they supposed to do? Like, nicely say, hey, we really like these Liberals and they're super wonderful and everything about them is great, but we think they should do this differently. Like, can you be realistic? They're going to say stuff is wrong. They're going to say he did this and it's wrong. He didn't do that. That's wrong. He definitely was elected saying he would get a deal with the U.S. on trade and hasn't done that for a year.
Yeah.
Whatever the details are, like, if people were talking for 5 months or they weren't, first of all, she doesn't know. We don't know. They've been talking probably, through different meetings or deals, whatever. It happens. They're not going to tell us every time there's a conversation between the U.S. and Canada. Mm-hmm. The point is, Carney was elected saying he would get a deal. Here we are a year later. We don't have one. The tariffs are worse than when he was actually elected. Mm-hmm. And all he's doing is sitting around poking the Trump administration in the eye and saying stupid crap like our dependence on the U.S. is a weakness that he's going to fix. First of all, that's extremely insulting to them. And why are we insulting them when we are significantly smaller than that country's economy? And whether we like it or not, we do depend on it. And second of all, like, I just don't understand.
I mean, this is
say all this
an
stuff?
old term called a spin doctor. That's what she is. She's just trying to confuse people who have a bent or a bias to agree with her, to just be more agreeing with her. Like, if you listen to the opposite side of the spectrum from what she would say, go listen to Brian Lilly. Brian Lilly put out today on his little show what he thought about the trade negotiations that are going on, and made an excellent factual point. And that was that we have Kuzma, or whatever they want to call the trade deal right now. But in that trade deal, they specifically had, before July 1st, that is, when it was taking effect and the negotiations were happening, they had a clause in the agreement that said that you could not tax any parties, like Amazon, Google, those big corporations, digital corporations. But what did the Liberal government at the time want to do last year? They specifically were making a law to tax those corporations, and they were trying to enact it at the time. And what happened was the Americans pointed out, you can't do this. This is a violation of the agreement that we already have in place. You need to stop. And then the Americans asked, in good faith, pause trying to create this tax, right? What did the Canadian coalition do? They did none of that. They continued to try to tax Amazon, Google, all of those guys. I mean, how do you have a fair deal when you're gonna be a shithead to the other team? Like, you're just not.
And you got to understand a little bit, like, the position you're coming from. Like, we understand how Trump and his administration work. It's obvious, If you hurl insults, you argue with them, you act like you kind of act like he does, you're not going to get anywhere with him.
Yep.
So you gotta, you need to read the room if you want to have success here. And I think that Carney and his ministers, they are reading the room, and they're figuring out how they can rile up Canadians to keep, elbows up supporting them, and that's just poking Trump in the eye over and over again, which in the long run will be terrible for all of us. And these guys, Carney and his cronies there, they will all just make a whole bunch of money no matter what happens. So they're unaffected by the bad decisions that they're going to make.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to point out this one video to you, Adam, and say, this is how the CBC acts. You aren't getting good information from the CBC if you watch Power and Politics and try to inform yourself. You need to go out once again, like I said, and find content where people discuss the details and the facts in open and honest conversation.